Did you know that daylight savings time was an experiment to see the effects of 1 hour of sleep deprivation on the populace? Back in March of 2019, Wired UK reported the news that the clocks were changing, and maybe for the last time ever. The article notes the 2017 bestseller Why We Sleep by the scientist Matthew Walker. He describes a horrifying sounding global experiment in which 1.5 billion people are forced to reduce their sleep by 1 hour or less for a single night every year. And if you live in Europe or North America, he says, it's very likely that you have been part of this experiment. It's called the daylight savings time. The thing is, I can't remember signing up to be a guinea pig in some mad scientist's twisted experiments, especially when you consider that a study from 2016 from Finland found that there was an increase in heart attacks and strokes in the days after daylight savings time. And that's not even putting into consideration the massive amount of depression that is felt around this time by everyone. And that leads to a lot of suicides. Plus, people get into car accidents because they're too tired. This experiment was first implemented in 1916 by the German government during World War I. I haven't been able to find any hard evidence to support this, but I find it quite strange that people's bodies were weakened with the daylight savings time and the war, and then 2 short years later, the world got decimated with the Spanish flu pandemic. I'm sure there's a connection. Speaking of casualties of war, Wired, the same publication who ran the other story, ran a new story on the 24th of October 2020, stating that the government was going to abolish the daylight savings time, but because of COVID-19, we now have to keep them for a little bit longer. So in the midst of the pandemic, we also have to deal with the heart attacks and the strokes and the depression and the exhausting tiredness for just a little bit longer. Interestingly, in this new article written, they're saying that daylight savings time isn't an experiment anymore to see the effects of sleep deprivation. Now it's to save energy, to help with global warming. Our natural state is to be attuned to the nature around us. We know when it's morning and we know when it's night. When the government messes with that natural state, this is when I think we get depressed. Something's wrong. We're not in sync anymore how we should be. I think that is probably a large contribution to people being depressed all the time. Another thing I should note is that time itself doesn't exist. When you start counting the clock and when you start counting birthdays, your mind gives up and then your body starts to deteriorate because you feel old. Okay, you've only had one birthday and you'll only have one death day too. Thanks for watching.